Hi, I'm Carleen. I'm the founder and director of Gut Health Nutrition, and I'm excited to be sharing with you today some Christmas recipes. In fact, it's going to be Christmas pudding. So why do you need to miss out on a beautiful pudding even though you've been on a gut protocol and you're wanting to look after your gut bacteria? I've got you covered. I know exactly what you need to eat for Christmas pudding, and I'm going to share it with you today. So this pudding has, the wet ingredients is an egg, 2 tablespoons of butter and 1 tablespoon of cream. So we're going to mix the wet ingredients first. So with the flour for this recipe, I'm using a combination of hazelnut meal, which you can easily make yourself just by using blanched hazelnuts and just putting them through the blender until they're into a fine powder. But I'm also using chia flour, which is blended chia seeds. So I'm using 50 grams of each, being 100 grams in total. For the spices in this recipe, I'm using cardamom and ginger. I'm also using a touch of cacao. So I've got a teaspoon of each. I'm just using a touch of sweetener, and I'm using the erythritol stevia blend for this pudding, but it's only 2 tablespoons. I'm also going to be using just 10 grams of crushed walnuts. And into the wet ingredients, I'm putting half a grated lemon rind. So into the wet ingredients, I'm adding in a half a cup of grated carrot. I've replaced the carrot instead of using apple. So it's still going to add a lot of sweetness, and it's going to add moisture as well. So half a cup of grated carrot, and just to add that pop of colour and that fruit sweetness, I'm putting in just 1/4 cup of frozen blueberries. These ones are pesticide free, so I'm very happy to have those ones. So that's all the wet ingredients. And now we're going to add the dry. So we want to get a fairly soft consistency, and because I use chia flour, it wanted to soak up the moisture. So I've added in between 1/2 cup to 1 cup of water into this pudding just to get that smooth consistency and to give it some moisture. That's about right there now though, that's quite soft. So we're going to put this into a well-prepared pudding dish that I've actually heavily greased with butter. So into the dish it goes. We want to squish it down. And it's pretty much just going to take up that form. So we need to cover this pudding now. We've got a sheet of the parchment baking paper, and then also a sheet of foil. And we're going to put the parchment paper closest to the pudding and the foil over that. And we're going to wrap it down nice and hard. And the next thing is we're going to wrap it up with string in such a way that we create a little handle as well. So twice around the bowl and then a little bit extra for the handle. It's where you need an extra pair of hands. So twice around the bowl. So I did need to get an extra set of hands to help because I wanted that to wrap around and to create a little handle so that when it's actually in the double boiler, I can easily get it out. Now, we just need to trim all this extra off because we don't want the moisture, the water, actually coming up into the pudding. So this bit can't be sitting in the water. So that needs to trim off. Don't trim off my handle, my goodness. So what I've prepared here is a double boiler. So it's about a third of the way filled with water, and I've put a dish, like just a little saucer, upside down in the water so that the pudding can sit on top of that. It's not sitting directly on the bottom of the saucepan. The pudding's going to go into that and sit on top of that dish. And it's about a third of the way up, and it's going to bubble away in there. With the lid on for about 1 to 2 hours. We're going to check it with a skewer, but it certainly doesn't need the same length of time to cook as a pudding would that has a lot of dried fruit and that's quite heavy. So this is going to be a much quicker pudding to produce on the day. We're just going to, I lost my handle. It's just been in for an hour. I'm just going to give it a step. Oh, I've lost the handle again. Oh dear. I'm just going to give it a stab to see if it's cooked. So I need to get through the 2 layers. Yep. It's ready. Okay, we're going to lift this out very carefully. Pop that on the board there. Turn this off. All right. We're just going to let it cool for a minute before we get it out of the bowl. Reveal. Oh my goodness, smell that. Oh, that smells good. Okay, so that's cooled right down to the touch. Still warm. We're going to just run a knife around the edge, but it looks like that's going to come out quite well and is the most important bit with a steamed pudding. Right. Okay. So the plate goes on top. We just have to cleverly do the flip. Oh, did you hear it? It did come out. Here's the reveal. Oh, what a cutie. All right, so to make that look lovely, I'm just going to do some decorations. Presentation is everything. I'm going to cut into it now, see what it looks like. So this would serve 4 people. So I'm going to cut it a nice quarter there. Maybe I'll cut that in half again. Oh, the flavour coming off that. That's a little pudding piece. I would serve that with a dollop of coconut cream, or cream if you consume it. Maybe a bit of custard. But that is a keto Christmas pudding.